Okay, so here's the graph from Practice Exercise Unit 1, and there are a couple of parts of this graph that I found confusing, and so perhaps you find them confusing as well, that I'd like to point out. The first thing that I find confusing is that the graph here that is on the right really drives the graph on the left. I would have liked it had they switched these. Since I read from left to right, I kind of like to have the graph that drives it first and the one that comes after, but that's not how they chose to do this, so that's fine. Just understand that the first thing they did was the Stimulus Preference Assessment, the SPA. That is recorded here with this bar graph. And they did this preference assessment 8 different times, so there are 8 different bars, one for each assessment, all over each different stimuli. So you will see the different stimuli, fruit, cheese, mirror, so on, for each child. The very first column shows the results of the very first preference assessment, second, third, and so on until you get to the 8th, the last column represents the final preference assessment that was completed. Okay? All well and good. Now, what I found confusing is, in my silly mind, I looked at this, and when I saw a higher column, I thought that that was representing a higher preference. But I was wrong. In reading the article, I found out that what seemed to make sense auditorily is what really made sense, not visually. Auditorily, if I say they were ranked from 1 to 8, you would probably naturally jump to the idea that 1 is the highest and 8 is the lowest. And that is what they did in this case. If it is ranked a 1, like fruit was here on the 5th preference assessment, that was ranked as the highest preference, okay? Lowest column bar here is representing the highest preference. On the other hand, if it jumps all the way up here to an 8, that is representing the lowest preference, okay? That didn't make sense to me visually. It does make sense to me auditorily. I just want to let you know that little part. Now, okay, like I said, this drives this, okay? So here they took information from the current preference assessment and they determined which item was high, ranked at a 1, which item was medium, ranked at a 4 or a 5, and which item was low, ranked at an 8. Then they worked with the client on a activity, a goal that they were currently working on, that they were currently in the acquiring stage with, and they got a baseline. And then they tried to reinforce those correct responses with an item that was low preference, high preference, medium preference, high preference, medium preference, low preference. And then you can see, of course, they connected the high, they connected the medium, they connected the low, so you can see more clearly the results from using items that were highly preferred, of medium preference or a low preference, and then you're able to see that items children identified through this reinforcer as being highly preferred were also highly reinforcing. They increased the number of corrective responses better than those that were ranked medium by the preference assessment or those that were ranked low by the preference assessment. And that's kind of the purpose of this entire article, was to determine, can a stimulus preference assessment correctly identify reinforcing stimuli? If you have any more questions, please let me know.